So let me get going here. My name is Rafiq Wayani. For those of you guys that don't know me or haven't been to my webinar in the past, the objective for this webinar is really to show you how to get started developing mobile apps on the Android platform. I want to preface by saying that I'm going to be talking about a whole lot of things and resources that surround beginning mobile application development on Android. Mobile application development on the iOS, which is the Apple's operating system, mobile operating system, and Windows Phone is different. Once you learn how to develop mobile applications on one platform, the information and what you have learned does to some degree lend itself to having a better understanding of another platform. It does not necessarily mean that you will be able to have familiarity with the tools needed on the other side. Here, I am only talking about Android. I do mobile application development on iOS, as well as Windows phones, of course, and as well as Android devices. So let me give you a little bit of an introduction. Also, I'm going to be going through websites and resources of tools that you need to get going with mobile development. It's going to require you to learn a whole lot of things that I can't possibly cover here. It's too much, but my objective here is to kind of get you in the door and hopefully have you looking in the right place so that you can begin development or your learning efforts if you so choose. If you want, after going through this, I do offer complete training on mobile development. That is, of course, much more extended, not just a webinar, a quick webinar introduction. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Let me get going here. So first of all, what I want to share with you is a little bit of an introduction on Android devices. If you go to android.com devices, by the way, you don't have to write this stuff down. I'm going to record this entire session and then present it or make it available to you on my LinkedIn profile. If you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, well, connect with me on LinkedIn and you will have the ability to take a look at this and many other presentations I have done in the past and will do in the future. Okay, so here is the Android website, and here, as you can see, it tells you about this Meet Android, and it tells you about the world's most popular OS and such. And one of the things that you need to know is that this site is very, very helpful because it really tells you about their devices, and it tells you about everything that they have. Here's Nexus devices and such, carriers and manufacturers, and kind of gets you involved and gets you knowledgeable about the Android platform, if you will. Okay. Also, there is so if you just went to android.com, if you go to android.com, actually, I'm going to take you to a website here. I'm just going to Google it. And by the way, Android is a Google development environment. And if I take a look at active Android developers, here is a dashboard for active Android developers. Now look at this right here. Inside of here, developer.android.com, you will notice this is the latest code name of the latest version of the Android OS, 4.4. You will also notice the distribution of the devices for a particular version. For example, 33.5%, which is the largest percentage listed here, have the Jelly Bean 4.1.x version of a device. See it right here in the graph as well. That means that right now, if you wanted to develop something and you developed for the Jelly Bean OS or the Jelly Bean version of the Android platform, you will get the most number of users that are able to work with your mobile app. If you develop for Froyo, for example, which is version 2.2, and a couple of years ago in 2012, Froyo was the latest and greatest release, and you would be developing for Froyo, and it had the most amount of market share, that would mean that you would get 1% of the distribution, and then all the others would be able to comply, and the people that are using gingerbread and honeycomb and ice cream sandwich and jelly bean and Kit Kat would be able to use what you developed in Froyo, except there's one disadvantage that you will have. You will not have the advantages that are available within Jelly Bean to develop applications that are as rich and powerful as some of your competitors. So you want to look at, so the first thing I'm telling you here is when you go to when you're thinking about developing a Android mobile application, you want to go to this site, this, where is this? This developer.android.com in the dashboard. Take a look at the platform versions. Take a look at what is the most amount of market share for a particular version, and then develop for that version. It's going to give you the most bang for your efforts, if you know what I mean. Then you see the screen size and densities, right? And you see the TV and the APIs and what is supported. You want to be more concerned with the platform versions initially. Okay? So that's the first thing I want you to take away from this. Before you sit down and begin, coding away, you really want to take a look at what's happening and what you're going to be developing for. Secondly, thinking about promoting your apps here, marketimpacts.com. Here we go. Okay, so marketimpacts.com. See this mobile app development right here? This particular organization, you see a free quick app downloads. This will give you quick application downloads for some sample apps, if you will. And it basically gives you blogs and such and what's going on, gives you a chance and a way to see what's been happening, a way for you to create your app, and then right here is a marketing and promotion. Okay, so when you get to a point where you want to, market and promote your app, this would be one of the places that that you can come to accomplish that. There are many. I seem to be going back to these guys quite a bit. So a few thousand other things I want to tell you. Let's go to the development environment, which is Eclipse. Eclipse.org. Okay, so Eclipse is a development platform that is well suited for many programming environments, Java being one of them. Now here's the thing, if nobody ever told you, I'm sure they have, you really need to be a developer if you want to begin developing on the mobile platform. You're not going to learn how to develop on the mobile platform through osmosis, for lack of a better word. I have seen, for example, a mobile app. I think it's a mobile app, but I'm not sure. I think I've seen a mobile app in the iOS and in the Android platform that allows you to point and click and create some simple applications by pointing and clicking. Let me clarify something with you, or something to you, if nobody has. In order for you to develop applications that impact anything, and what I mean by impact is they help your organization or you specifically in meeting a goal, you're going to be required to learn quite a few things. Of course, programming is one end of that. And the better programmer you are, the more applicable and the more powerful your application can become. So another lesson that I want you to learn is sit down and really learn the tools that are needed to develop mobile apps, which is what I'm going to be showing you, I'm showing you, and learn to code. There's no way around it, and there are no shortcuts around it either. Excuse me. You cannot drag and drop production applications, production mobile applications that can have any kind of real global impact without some pain and suffering of learning how to code on your part. Eclipse is a development platform that is the primarily chosen platform for Java development. Very well recognized. This is the integrated development environment for Java and Java environments. If I go to play.google.com store, so here is the store and apps for the Android devices. If you have an Android device, you probably see these, right in the marketplace. Nothing really fancy here. You see the free apps and such that are, top of the chart applications, and categories are listed here. I'm sure you've seen all of this, but this is where you would have to go on the mobile platform. Let's take a look at something else here. In the play.google.com, if I go to apps, when you get ready to publish your application, this is a site that you're going to want to come to go through a checklist. And take a look at the top here. There's this developers link. There's a design link, which is kind of awesome. There's a develop link. And then there's a distribute link. Let me explain this to you. There is a very common model of programming or development. I want to point something out to you first. This applies to any development environment, not just mobile development, not just Android development. You really have many phases of development, and everything starts with being able to envision what you're going to do. You envision something, then you plan something, then you develop it, then you stabilize it, then you deploy it, and you basically start all over again. Right here, what is not listed, right in the middle here, there would be a version 1.0. So right in the middle here, I would say, would be a version 1.0. And with each iteration, you have a new version of the application, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, and so on. And with each iteration, you would get closer and closer to a perfect product, but you'd never get there. You'd never make a perfect product because product would never be perfect. You would have to constantly develop it. If it was a perfect product and anybody ever reached a perfect product, well, they would stop developing, which is not the case. So spiral model of development is very, very critical. You want to go through and basically document what you're going to do and how you're going to do it and why you're doing it before you actually get to the development phase. Okay? Close this out. Close this out. So you have the design here, which is a design, develop, and distribute. Now notice that here? So in the design, you see where it says creative vision? Tells you about, want to know more about Android KitKat version? So here's a gallery, people, and email and such, and you're able to go through and walk through. Here's the designs that are available. Here's talking about design principles and such. A overview of user interfaces and what user interfaces can perhaps look like. Styles that you can implement, devices and displays that are around, themes, touch feedback, metrics and grids. And so you really want to decide first how you're going to be designing and what kind of feedback you want. You don't just sit down and begin throwing code together. It doesn't work that way. And anybody that tells you that is lying to you if they've had any kind of success. Then you move on to development. By the way, for those of you that have or wanted to develop mobile apps in the past, you are in the perfect time right now to develop Android applications because of the wealth of information that is available at your fingertips through these sites. For example, right here under development, under develop, there's training. Look at that. Getting started. Building your first app. Whoa, really? I can just click creating an Android project right here, for example, and it will tell me and walk me through what you need to do to build your first application. Create a project with command line tools, and here's running your application, building a simple user interface, starting another activity, adding the action bar. Actually, the list goes on and on, It's walking you through getting started, and look at this list here of everything you need to do all the way down to testing and distributing and monetizing on your efforts. So you think to yourself, well, if I have this, can I just use this to begin development on the Android platform? Well, yeah, the answer is yes. That's the short answer. The long answer is this will be most helpful to someone who is a developer, who does understand the development environment and code, and is simply just not familiar with Android development. But they do develop applications. They understand XML. They understand Java and object-oriented programming. They have a better understanding of mobile development, and they know what it's like to code. They just need to understand how to code and how to program inside of the Android platform so that they can be on their way. This learning platform is perfect for someone who is already in the know as far as programming goes. Otherwise, all of these instructions are really just that. They're just instructions. It's kind of monkey say, monkey do, for lack of a better word. If I can elaborate, I can tell you with a great deal of confidence that I am perfectly equipped to read instructions and send the space shuttle to the moon. I won't know what I did, but I can do it if I'm given a list of steps and the tools in front of me to do it. But if something were to go wrong, or if I need to do something on my own, I'll be lost, and I'm sure you are in that case as well. So just by reading here and following along, if you will, you'd be able to create perhaps a simple Android application and perhaps even get it running. No doubt, you can read and you can understand what you're reading. But just because you got going, if you don't have a proper understanding of coding principles and OO programming inside of Java and the toolkit, you're just going to be lost, and you're going to get lost very fast. So there's training. There's API guides. Now, APIs are application programmer interfaces. An API makes it possible for you to interact with the various different components of the Android interface. And of course the Android device, such as the touch, the video, and the actual screens and components, and actually the list goes on and on. Here is the API guide, and these are in terms of application packages. The proper API, if you'll recall, when I was talking to you about Jelly Bean and Froyo, and of course KitKat now, those are all APIs. They have associated APIs with those versions. Depending on what API you use, will dictate under what platform your Android application will be available or visible or usable in. Okay? And then there's reference, as you can see. Tells you about, it says these are Android APIs. See these programming interfaces, and then it tells you to look at all the API classes. This is just a small list. Look at how overwhelming this can become for someone who, well, is new. So this is, yes, it's information, it's reference, but it can be extremely overwhelming if you're not used to coding. Click on Tools, and you'll see the developer tools that are available. It tells you about the full Java integrated development platform, the integrated development environment that's available, the graphical user interface builders that allow you to build rich UI graphic interfaces, and then the device developer options, the hardware, the virtual devices, the debugging, and the list goes on and on. Okay. So here's the download Android SDK. Open source, as you can see, this really means that it's free and that it runs on most OS platforms. SDK stands for Software Development Kit. As you can see right here, the Android Developer Tools, the ADT plugin for Eclipse, which is what I was showing you early on as a development interface, which is a full Java integrated development environment with advanced features that will help you build and test and debug and package your Android apps. And it says to get started, you want to download the Android SDK, which basically has the ADT plugin for Eclipse. Okay? You don't have to use Eclipse, but Eclipse is free and is very widely known, very widely used. And it tells you right here how you can set up the Android Developer Tools bundle. Instructions again, setting up the existing IDE, installing the Eclipse plugin, and adding platform packages. And here, go to Android Studio, it says, and take a look at the early access preview. By the way, this whole early access business is always available to developers. Long before a production release of an Android version comes out on Android devices, it is available to developers to develop on. Obviously, right? How else can you be ready for the next version of a particular Android operating system or Android OS if you don't have the ability to develop early on so that when it does come out, you can take advantage of it? And then here it tells you about, migrating from Eclipse. If you're using Eclipse, you can use Android Studio instead, and the tips and tricks and such. Okay. Google services right here. So Google services that are available to you, like Google Maps that you can include, Google Play and app billing, and all these things that you can include within your app. And then this is the important one here, samples, which is kind of cool, Has all these samples. Here's background samples. Here's repeating alarm, as it gives you an example. And then there's connectivity samples and content samples. So you can basically learn from the sample development apps that are already out there that you can learn from. Then, so you got the design part, the develop part, and of course, then you have to distribute. You notice right over here, you see the publishing, visibility right here, monetizing, distribution. See, they're reaching the customers you want and such. You can do graphical targeting, capabilities targeting if you want a particular version of the operating system or a particular device that you want to target. And then there's statistics. Really kind of cool. So you can be intelligent about what you're doing and why you're doing it and what benefits you will gain as a result. The other thing that I want to show you is I want to list a few things down for you so that you have them in front of you as I've been yapping away about them. This way you'll have them when you're looking at the the recorded version of this webinar. So you really have to, I'm going to put things down in steps. So the Android developer tools. So first, you need to download the Java SE developer, I should really say development kit, which is known as a JDK. So these are steps in order you need to begin Android development. All right. So you need the Java developer kit. You need the Eclipse integrated development environment. Okay. And you can get that from eclipse.org. You can get that from eclipse.org. You get Java Developer Kit from oracle.com, and you can download Java Development Kit from there because it belongs to Oracle. Then there's the Android Software Development Kit, or Android SDK, which you can get at developer.android.com. Okay, you get that from there. Then there is the Android Development Tools, ADT. And you get that also from developer.android.com. Okay. Then you have the Android Debug Bridge. Now the Debug Bridge makes it possible for you to have device communications, and it has a emulation interface. You will not need an Android device to code Android applications. You can use an emulator that is provided to you by Google. Okay. Then there's something called the Android Virtual Devices, AVD. Okay, so Android Virtual Devices also is device emulation, device connection and such. Then there is the Android sample apps, as I was telling you, as I showed you as well, downloading the sample applications from the developer site, developerandroid.com. Then you have Android native development kit, NDK. This is the C++ code reuse and CPU intensive applications, you also get this from developer.android.com. And then finally, you will need Google Play. And Google Play is really where you have your application listed and uploaded and downloaded and application statistics. So if I was to show you here, Android application statistics. Click here and show all content here. So here you go. Take a look. Number of apps on Google Play, and you notice top Android phones, number of available applications. Here are the number of current Android applications on Google Play. If I go to number of available applications, just refreshing my page, show all content. Free versus paid applications. These are things you're going to need to pay attention to, by the way, before you begin coding, you know. This is important information. Current number of free applications and number of paid applications. Notice, majority of them are free. Vast majority of them are free. Applications by rating. Okay. How many applications are rated? Right. Apps by downloads. Right. There you go, download and distribution of the applications. Top categories of applications, in-app billing, top Android phones. That would be important to you. Depending on here's by, you see the legend up here, the type of phone. And so Samsung Galaxy Note 3 is right here. Galaxy S4 is right there. Here's the Galaxy S3 is right there. 7.7% as of May 5th inside of, so anyway. So you can see top Android SDK versions. Same deal here. You see 4.4 is on KitKat. Right? The latest version here. And what the others are sitting on, looks like there's some on Eclair and 2.2 on Froyo and so on. All right. So that's Google Play and statistics for Google applications. Things that you need to do in order to prepare. Now, Eclipse, for those of you that have never seen it, here, for example, after you download Eclipse and unzip it, you actually just walk through the installation like you would anything else. I'm sure you guys have installed several applications in your time. Nothing really new about this. But if you're not familiar with Eclipse or you're not familiar with Java, you have a lot of learning to do. So you want to work first inside of the Java environment. Here's new, start a Java project. And you begin working in the named project, sample for example. And then you begin working within your Java app and begin working with the Java platform. Here's the task list and such, and you can begin adding your source and your source code to this. Yes, it's involved, but you should take the time to learn. Okay? So my objective here was to introduce you to what is needed in order for you to begin development on the Android platform, to list you in steps like I have, everything that you're going to need to begin that development process and to begin the learning process, and to point you to the Android specific website that will help you get that process started. If I dive into the actual development environment, I am probably going to lose you very, very fast because there's so much explanation that I would need to do. It would make it very difficult to make my time or our collective time useful. Okay? Basically, what would end up happening is I would be coding, and since you guys are not following along with me, and what I mean by that is you guys would not be coding yourselves, I would simply lose you in the shuffle. Eventually, what would happen is, and very quickly, you would lose interest. You would not realize what I'm doing. And the whole point of introducing you to the platform and getting you started would be wasted. I would probably turn you away rather than turn you on to development on the Android platform. Okay? So take some time to look at the wealth of information, keeping in mind that developing simple applications on the Android platform may be easy. As a matter of fact, there are tools out there that allow you to drag and drop things. And there's nothing wrong with dragging and dropping. But dragging and dropping doesn't teach you anything. It just teaches you that you dragged and dropped stuff. In order to actually have an application that has an impact and has your vision in the application, you will need to learn to code. And you'll need to learn to code well. And you'll need to know these tools, such as the ADT, the ADB, the AVD, and the NDK, the JDK, the Eclipse environment, and the J2SE, and so on. It's very important that you begin working. And if you want to go down this path, begin learning Java, begin learning object-oriented development, and begin then, of course, diving into the mobile platform as quickly as you can. I'm not sure how many of you are developers. Maybe some of you are. And by the way, it doesn't mean that you're developers on the Java platform. You can develop in any language. You will be able to pick up another language faster. Okay? Especially if it's an OO app. If it's an OO development platform like C# or VBNet or C or C++ or Smalltalk way in the old days, you'll pick up Java pretty quickly too.